Welcome to the Story Lab. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. I glanced at my watch as I pulled into our driveway. Perfect timing. Jennifer's car was already gone, which meant she'd left for her girls' weekend getaway. A grin spread across my face as I imagined her surprise when she returned to find our house spotless. As I entered our cozy suburban Seattle home, I breathed in the familiar scent of Jennifer's favorite vanilla candle. 10 years of marriage, and that smell still brought a smile to my face. Sure, we'd had our ups and downs, but our bond was unbreakable. Or so I thought. I headed straight for the cleaning supplies closet, determined to make the most of this rare opportunity. Jennifer had been talking about this trip with her friends for weeks, and I wanted to show her how much I appreciated her. "All right, Michael," I muttered to myself, rolling up my sleeves. "Time to channel your inner Mr. Clean." I started in the kitchen, scrubbing every surface until it gleamed. As I worked, my mind wandered to the early days of our relationship. Jennifer and I had met in college, bonding over our shared love of Terrible B movies and homemade pizza. We'd been inseparable ever since. Moving to the living room, I carefully dusted each of our framed photos. There we were on our honeymoon in Hawaii, sunburned but blissfully happy. And there, the day we moved into this house, paint splattered and exhausted but filled with dreams for our future. I wonder if she'll even notice all this work, I chuckled, knowing full well that Jennifer had an eye for detail. As I vacuumed the hallway, our neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, poked her head out her front door. "Michael, what on earth are you doing?" she called, a bemused expression on her face. I paused, switching off the vacuum. "Just giving the place a deep clean while Jennifer's away. Thought I'd surprise her." Mrs. Thompson's eyes twinkled. "Well, aren't you the sweetest thing? Jennifer's a lucky woman." I felt my cheeks flush. "I'm the lucky one, Mrs. Thompson. Jennifer's, well, she's everything to me." As I waved goodbye and returned to my task, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Jennifer and I had built a good life together. Sure, we had our moments of frustration, who doesn't? But at the end of the day, we always came back to each other. With the first floor spotless, I moved upstairs to tackle our bedroom. Jennifer's perfume lingered in the air, and I found myself missing her already. It was silly, really. She'd only been gone a few hours, and it wasn't the first time she'd taken a trip with her friends. But something felt different this time. I shook off the feeling, chalking it up to an overactive imagination. Instead, I focused on the task at hand, determined to make our bedroom a welcoming oasis for when Jennifer returned. As I worked my way through the room, I couldn't help but smile at the little reminders of our life together. The novel on Jennifer's nightstand, bookmarked halfway through. The silly tchotchkes we'd collected on our travels. The framed photo of us on our wedding day, looking impossibly young and ridiculously in love. "I wonder if she still sees me that way," I mused aloud, picking up the frame. In the photo, Jennifer was looking at me with such adoration it made my heart ache. When was the last time I'd seen that look in her eyes? I set the photo down, pushing away the nagging doubt. Of course, she still loved me. We were Michael and Jennifer, the couple everyone envied. The ones who'd beaten the odds and found lasting happiness. Little did I know, my whole world was about to come crashing down around me. With the bedroom nearly finished, I turned my attention to our shared walk-in closet. Jennifer's side was a colorful explosion of fabrics and shoes, a stark contrast to my neat rows of dress shirts and slacks. I chuckled, imagining her reaction if I tried to organize her clothes. "She'd probably accuse me of messing up her system," I muttered, using air quotes. As I pushed aside her winter coats to vacuum the back corner, something caught my eye. A small, ornate box was wedged behind the coats, partially hidden by a fallen scarf. Curious, I reached for it. The box was heavier than I expected, and when I tried to open it, I found it was locked. A frown creased my forehead. Why would Jennifer have a locked box hidden in her closet? "Don't be paranoid, Michael," I chided myself. "It's probably just some old keepsakes or something." But as I turned the box over in my hands, a memory surfaced. When we'd first moved in, the previous owners had left behind a set of spare keys. One of them, a small, intricate key, had never found its match. Could it be? My heart pounding, I retrieved the key from the junk drawer in the kitchen. It slid into the lock perfectly, turning with a soft click. For a moment, I hesitated. This was an invasion of Jennifer's privacy. If she found out, she'd be furious. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't let me walk away. Just a quick peek, I promised myself. If it's nothing, I'll lock it back up and forget about it. With trembling hands, I lifted the lid. Inside, I found a stack of letters, a handful of photographs, and a simple flip phone. Confusion gave way to dread as I picked up the first letter. "My dearest Jay," it began. The handwriting was unfamiliar, signed at the bottom with a simple A. My stomach churned as I read on, the loving words painting a vivid picture of a passionate affair. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of mistake. But as I flipped through the photos, the truth became undeniable. There was Jennifer, my Jennifer, wrapped in the arms of a man I'd never seen before. Their lips locked, their bodies pressed together in unmistakable intimacy. "No," I whispered, my voice breaking. "No, no, no." With shaking hands, I picked up the phone. It powered on easily. She hadn't even bothered to let the battery die. The inbox was filled with texts, each one a dagger to my heart. "Can't wait to see you again, baby. Last night was amazing. When can we meet again? I miss the taste of your skin." I scrolled through the messages, each one more damning than the last. The timestamps told their own story. This affair had been going on for at least 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of betrayal. While I'd been here, cleaning the house and dreaming of our future, Jennifer had been. A wave of nausea hit me, and I barely made it to the bathroom before emptying the contents of my stomach. As I slumped against the cool tile, my mind raced. How could she do this? How could I have been so blind? I don't know how long I sat there, my world crumbling around me. But eventually, a cold, hard anger began to replace the shock and pain. With mechanical movements, I returned to the closet. I arranged everything exactly as I'd found it, locking the box and replacing it behind the coats. Then, I picked up my phone. Jennifer answered on the third ring, her voice light and carefree. "Michael, is everything okay?" "No," I said, my voice flat. "No, everything is not okay. You need to come home. Now." "What? Why? What's going on?" "Just get home, Jennifer. We need to talk." I ended the call before she could respond, my heart pounding in my ears. This was it, the moment that would change everything. As I waited for Jennifer to arrive, I paced our living room, the once comforting space now feeling like a prison. Every happy memory, every shared moment, felt tainted. How many times had she lied to my face in this very room? The sound of tires on the driveway jolted me from my thoughts. This was it, the moment of truth. I stepped out onto the driveway as Jennifer's car pulled up. She looked confused and worried as she got out, her eyes searching my face. "Michael, what's going on? You scared me half to death with that call." I stood there, my fists clenched at my sides, struggling to find the words. How do you confront the person you love most in the world about the ultimate betrayal? "Michael," Jennifer approached, reaching out to touch my arm. I flinched away, and her eyes widened in surprise. "Honey, you're scaring me. What happened? Why don't you tell me, Jennifer?" My voice came out low and dangerous. "Why don't you tell me about A?" The color drained from her face, and in that moment, I knew. There would be no denials, no explanations that could make this right. How did you find out?" she whispered. A bitter laugh escaped me. "Does it matter? What matters is that you've been lying to me for months, sneaking around behind my back, making a fool of me." Jennifer's shock gave way to defiance, her chin lifting. "You went through my things, didn't you? How dare you invade my privacy like that? How dare I?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "How dare you? I'm your husband, Jennifer. We took vows. Or did those mean nothing to you?" She rolled her eyes, and the casual dismissal of our marriage felt like a physical blow. "Oh, grow up, Michael. People cheat all the time. It doesn't have to mean anything. Doesn't have to. Are you serious right now?" I was shouting now, not caring who might hear. "You've been carrying on an affair for 6 months. 6 months of lying to my face, of. I couldn't even bring myself to say it. Jennifer's face hardened, all pretense of remorse gone. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I've been sleeping with Andrew. And you know what? He's twice the man you'll ever be. Each word was like a knife to my gut, but I forced myself to stand tall. Get out. Excuse me? You heard me. Get out of my house. Now. A cruel smile played at the corners of her mouth. Your house? Oh, honey. When I'm done with you, this house and everything in it will be mine. You really think you can throw me out? I stepped closer, my voice low and dangerous. Try me. One phone call, and I'll have copies of those letters and photos sent to every person we know. How do you think that will play out in divorce court? For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Jennifer's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by cold determination. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I repeated. Now get out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret. We stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Jennifer turned on her heel and stalked back to her car. As she opened the door, she paused. This isn't over, Michael. You'll regret this. As I watched her drive away, the weight of what had just happened crashed over me. My marriage, my life as I knew it, was over. I stumbled back into the house, collapsing onto the couch we'd picked out together all those years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent the day cleaning, trying to make everything perfect for Jennifer's return. Now, our home felt tainted, every surface a reminder of her betrayal. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at nothing. The sun had long since set when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Jennifer. I'm staying with Sarah. We'll talk about this when we've both calmed down. I didn't bother responding. What was there left to say? The woman I'd loved, the life we'd built together, it had all been a lie. As I dragged myself to bed that night, alone for the first time in years, I couldn't help but wonder, where do I go from here? How do I even begin to pick up the pieces of my shattered life? The harsh morning light filtered through the blinds, waking me from a fitful sleep. For a blissful moment, I forgot the events of yesterday. Then reality crashed down and I groaned, burying my face in the pillow. The shrill ring of my phone cut through the silence. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? My voice was rough from lack of sleep. Is this Michael Davis? A smooth, masculine voice asked. Yes, who's this? Andrew Thompson, Jennifer's lawyer. I think we need to talk. My stomach clenched. Jennifer's lawyer? Already? A low chuckle came through the line. Oh, I've been her lawyer for quite some time now, Michael. Among other things. The implication hit me like a punch to the gut. You're a dot. Guilty as charged, Andrew said, not sounding guilty at all. Now, about those divorce proceedings. You've got to be kidding me, I interrupted. You're her lover and her lawyer? Isn't that, I don't know, illegal or something? Another laugh. Oh, Michael, you're adorably naive. Let's meet and discuss this like adults, shall we? Unless you'd prefer I just draw up the papers and have Jennifer take you for everything you're worth. You can't. I can and I will, Andrew cut in, his voice hard. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., my office. I'll text you the address. Don't be late. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind reeling. How had my life fallen apart so completely in less than 24 hours? I spent the rest of the day in a daze, alternating between bouts of anger and crushing despair. By evening, I was emotionally exhausted and no closer to figuring out what to do. As I mindlessly scrolled through my phone, a text from an unfamiliar number popped up. Hey stranger, long time no talk. How've you been? I frowned, trying to place the number. Then it hit me, Lauren King, my ex-girlfriend from college. Lauren? This is unexpected. I've been better, to be honest. How about you? The reply came quickly. Sorry to hear that. I'm doing well, made partner at my law firm last year. Want to catch up over coffee? I hesitated. Lauren and I hadn't exactly parted on the best terms. But right now, I was desperate for a friendly face. Sure, why not? When and where? We agreed to meet at a nearby cafe in an hour. As I got ready, I couldn't help but wonder about the timing of Lauren's text. After all these years, why now? The cafe was bustling when I arrived. Lauren waved me over to a corner table, looking as put together as ever in a crisp blazer. Michael, she smiled, standing to give me a quick hug. It's been too long. I managed a weak smile in return. Yeah, it has. You look good, Lauren. Thanks, she said, gesturing for me to sit. So do you. Although forgive me for saying this, but you look like you've been through hell. I barked out a laugh. That obvious, huh? Lauren's eyes softened. Want to talk about it? And suddenly, the whole story came pouring out. Jennifer's affair, the confrontation, Andrew's call. I told Lauren everything. When I finished, she let out a low whistle. Wow, Michael. That's rough. I'm so sorry. Yeah, well, I shrugged, trying for nonchalance and failing miserably. Life, right? Lauren leaned forward, her eyes intense. Listen, Michael, I know we have history, but I want to help. This is what I do, you know. I specialize in divorce law. I blinked, surprised. You're offering to be my lawyer? If you'll have me, she nodded. What Andrew's doing, representing Jennifer when he's personally involved, that's a major ethics violation. I can help you fight this. Hope, fragile and tentative, bloomed in my chest. You do that? For me. Lauren reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Of course. What are old friends for? As I left the cafe, I felt lighter than I had in days. Maybe, just maybe, things would work out after all. The next morning, Lauren arrived at my house bright and early, all business in a sleek pantsuit. All right, Michael, she said as I let her in. Show me everything you've got. I led her to the dining room table, where I'd spread out copies of the letters and photos I'd found. Lauren's eyebrows shot up as she examined the evidence. Well, Jennifer's been quite busy, hasn't she? Yeah, I muttered, the familiar ache settling in my chest. Tell me about it. Hey, Lauren's voice softened. She placed a hand on my arm. We're going to get through this, okay? I promise. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Lauren turned back to the documents, her brow furrowed in concentration. This is good, Michael. Really good. With this evidence, plus the prenup, we've got a strong case. So what's our next move? I asked, hope rising in my chest. Lauren tapped her chin thoughtfully. I think we need to meet with Jennifer and Andrew. Show them what we've got. See if we can negotiate a settlement without going to court. I frowned. Is that wise? Showing our hand like that? Trust me, Lauren winked. I know what I'm doing. We'll meet at a neutral location. I know just the place. A hotel I've used for mediations before. Very discreet. Excellent security. Something about her confidence made me uneasy. I don't know, Lauren. She reached out, squeezing my hand. Michael, do you trust me? I hesitated. Did I? After everything that had happened with Jennifer, could I trust anyone? Lauren's eyes bore into mine, sincere and determined. I'm on your side, Michael. 100%. Let me help you. Finally, I nodded. Okay, let's do it your way. Excellent, Lauren beamed. I'll set everything up. Oh, and I'll bring a hidden camera, just in case things get heated. As Lauren gathered her things to leave, a thought occurred to me. Lauren, thank you for everything. She paused at the door, her smile softening. That's what friends are for, Michael. We'll get through this together. After she left, I sat in silence for a long moment. Then, making a decision, I headed to my office. If Lauren was bringing a hidden camera, well, two could play at that game. It took some doing, but I managed to rig up a small microphone that I could hide under my collar. Call me paranoid, but after everything that had happened, I wasn't taking any chances. As I tested the microphone, I couldn't help but wonder, was I doing the right thing? Or was I letting my pain and anger push me into making more mistakes? I shook my head, pushing the doubts aside. This was about protecting myself, nothing more. And after what Jennifer and Andrew had done, I needed all the protection I could get. The day of the meeting dawned bright and clear, a mockery of the turmoil churning inside me. I dressed carefully, making sure the hidden microphone was secure and undetectable. Lauren picked me up, all smiles and confidence. Ready to face the music, Michael? I managed a weak smile in return. As ready as I'll ever be. The drive to the hotel was tense, filled with Lauren's reassurances and my own gnawing doubt. As we pulled into the parking lot, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "Remember," Lauren said as we walked through the lobby, "let me do the talking. No matter what they say or do, stay calm. We've got this." I nodded, my throat too dry for words. The meeting room was small but elegant, with a large table dominating the space. Jennifer and Andrew were already there, sitting close together. The sight of them made my blood boil. "Well, well," Andrew smirked as we entered. "If it isn't the cuckolded husband and his knight in shining armor." Lauren's hand on my arm stopped me from lunging across the table. Now, Andrew," she said smoothly. "Let's keep things civil, shall we?" We took our seats, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a knife. "So," Jennifer spoke up, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "What's this all about, Michael? Come to beg me to take you back?" I opened my mouth to retort, but Lauren beat me to it. "Actually, Jennifer, we're here to discuss the terms of your divorce. I think you'll find our proposal quite interesting." Andrew leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "Oh, do tell." Lauren smiled, a predatory glint in her eye. "Well, you see," and then, to my utter shock, she started to laugh. Not a polite chuckle, but a full-bodied, mocking laugh. I stared at her, bewildered. "Lauren? What's going on?" She turned to me, all pretense of friendliness gone. "Oh, Michael. Sweet, stupid Michael. Did you really think I was here to help you?" My world tilted on its axis. "What?" Jennifer joined in the laughter. "You should see your face right now, Michael. Priceless." "I don't understand," I stammered, looking from face to face. "Lauren, what?" "Allow me to explain." Andrew cut in, his smile cruel. "You see, Michael, Lauren here has been working with us from the start." Lauren nodded, her eyes cold. "Did you really think I'd forgotten how you broke my heart in college? This was my chance for payback." But the evidence," I sputtered. "The plan." "Oh, that," Lauren waved dismissively. "I handed all that over to Andrew yesterday. You've got nothing left, Michael." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "Why?" I finally managed to choke out. Andrew leaned back, looking supremely satisfied. "Because we can, Michael. Because you're a fool who trusts too easily. And now, we're going to take everything you have." Something in me snapped. With a roar of fury, I lunged across the table, my hands reaching for the smug bastard's throat. Chaos erupted. Jennifer screamed, Lauren shouted for security, and Andrew and I grappled, sending papers flying everywhere. Strong hands grabbed me, pulling me off Andrew. "Hotel security," I realized dimly. "That's it," the head of security growled. "You're out of here, buddy. And if you don't leave quietly, we're calling the cops." As they dragged me from the room, I caught one last glimpse of Jennifer, Lauren, and Andrew, all wearing identical expressions of smug triumph. They threw me out onto the sidewalk, my possessions scattered around me. As I sat there, trying to process what had just happened, one thought crystallized in my mind. I had lost everything. My marriage, my home, and now, any hope of justice. I was alone, betrayed by everyone I had trusted. As I stumbled away from the hotel, my world in shambles, I had no idea that my lowest point was about to become the first step on the path to redemption. I stumbled into the dimly lit bar, my world still reeling from the betrayal I'd just experienced. The bartender eyed me warily as I slumped onto a stool. "Rough day?" he asked, already reaching for a glass. I laughed bitterly. "You could say that. Whiskey? Neat. Make it a double." As I nursed my drink, the bar's door swung open. I didn't bother looking up until I heard a familiar voice. "Michael? Michael Davis?" I turned, squinting at the figure approaching me. Recognition dawned slowly. "Bob? Bob Miller?" Bob grinned, taking the seat next to me. "The one and only. Man, it's been what, 10 years?" I nodded, memories flooding back. Bob and I had been friends once, before he fell in with a bad crowd in high school. He'd made my life hell for a while. "What brings you here?" I asked, unable to keep the wariness from my voice. Bob's smile faded. Actually, I saw you come in. You looked, well, like you needed a friend. I snorted. A friend? That's rich, coming from you. Bob winced. Yeah, I deserve that. Listen, Michael, I know I was a real jerk back then. I've wanted to apologize for years. Save it, I muttered, turning back to my drink. No, hear me out, Bob insisted. After high school, I realized what an ass I'd been. Went to law school, trying to turn my life around. I've been hoping I'd run into you someday to make amends. I studied him, searching for any sign of deceit. Law school, huh? So you're a lawyer now? Bob nodded. Family law, mostly. Divorces, custody battles, that sort of thing. I laughed humorlessly. Well, isn't that just perfect timing? What do you mean? The whole story came pouring out of me then. Jennifer's affair, Lauren's betrayal, the disastrous meeting at the hotel. Bob listened intently, his frown deepening with each revelation. When I finished, Bob let out a low whistle. Jesus, Michael. That's awful. I'm so sorry. I shrugged, the alcohol dulling the pain somewhat. Yeah, well, guess I'm just a sucker. No, Bob said firmly. You're a good guy who got screwed over by some real pieces of work. Listen, let me help you. I eyed him suspiciously. Help me? How? I told you. I'm a lawyer now. A damn good one, if I do say so myself. Let me take your case. I laughed bitterly. Right, because trusting lawyers has worked out so well for me lately. Bob leaned in, his eyes intense. Michael, I swear to you, I'm on the level. I know I hurt you in the past, but please, let me make it right. What have you got to lose? I considered his words. He was right. I had nothing left to lose. And something in his earnest expression made me want to believe him. All right, I said finally. But I'm warning you, Bob. If this is some kind of trick, it's not, he assured me. I promise. Now, tell me everything. And I mean everything. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. Well, there is one thing. I managed to record the whole meeting today. As I played the audio for Bob, his eyes widened. Michael, this is gold. Pure gold. With this and the prenup, we've got a real shot. For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of hope. You really think so? Bob nodded, determination etched on his face. I know so. We're going to nail these bastards to the wall, Michael. Trust me. As we left the bar together, I couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns life could take. My childhood bully had become my last hope for justice. I just prayed I wasn't making another terrible mistake. The next morning, I met Bob at his office. The space was modest but professional, a far cry from the opulent surroundings Lauren had worked in. Nice place, I commented as I took a seat across from his desk. Bob grinned. Thanks. It's not much, but it's honest work. Now, let's get down to business. He spread out the documents I'd brought, along with printouts of the audio transcription. All right, Michael, walk me through everything again. Don't leave out any details. For the next few hours, we pored over every scrap of evidence. Bob took copious notes, his brow furrowed in concentration. This is good, he muttered, more to himself than to me. Really good, but we need more. I felt my heart sink. More? What more could there possibly be? Bob looked up, a glint in his eye. We need to dig deeper into Lauren and Andrew. Their relationship, their legal practices. If they're willing to pull this kind of stunt, I'd bet good money it's not the first time. How do we do that? I asked. Leave that to me, Bob said, reaching for his phone. I've got some contacts in the legal community. Give me a few days. True to his word, Bob threw himself into the investigation. Every day brought new revelations, each more damning than the last. You're not going to believe this, Bob announced one afternoon, bursting into his office where I'd been waiting. I looked up from the legal documents I'd been trying to decipher. What is it? Bob slapped a file on the desk. Andrew Thompson has been under investigation by the Bar Association for months. Ethical violations, client intimidation, you name it. And guess who's been helping him cover it up? Lauren. I breathed. Bob nodded grimly. Bingo. She's been using her influence at her firm to bury complaints. Michael, this goes way beyond your case. We're talking potential disbarment for both of them. I leaned back, stunned. My God. I had no idea. It gets better, Bob continued. Remember that prenup you and Jennifer signed? I had an expert look it over. It's ironclad, Michael. If we can prove infidelity, which we absolutely can, Jennifer doesn't get a dime. For the first time in weeks, I felt a smile tugging at my lips. So you're saying we have a chance? Bob grinned back. More than a chance. We're going to destroy them, Michael. In court, and in the court of public opinion. As Bob laid out our strategy, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Relief, vindication, and yes, a touch of fear. This was it. The final battle. You ready for this? Bob asked, noticing my expression. I took a deep breath and nodded. Ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this. The day of the hearing arrived, and I felt like I might be sick. Bob met me outside the courthouse, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to my jangled nerves. Deep breaths, Michael, he advised. Remember, we've got this. Just stick to the truth, and let me handle the rest. As we entered the courtroom, I saw Jennifer, Andrew, and Lauren huddled together. Jennifer smirked when she saw me, but I noticed a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. All rise, the bailiff called out as the judge entered. What followed was the most intense few hours of my life. Bob was a force of nature, methodically presenting our evidence and tearing apart the opposition's arguments. Your Honor, Bob addressed the judge, I'd like to present Exhibit A, an audio recording from a meeting between my client, his wife, and their respective counsel. As the damning recording played, I watched the color drain from Jennifer's face. Lauren and Andrew whispered furiously to each other, panic evident in their expressions. Objection! Andrew shouted, jumping to his feet. This recording was obtained without consent. The judge peered over her glasses at him. Mr. Thompson, I'd remind you that Washington is a one-party consent state. The recording is admissible. Please continue, Mr. Miller. Bob nodded, a predatory gleam in his eye. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, I'd like to draw the court's attention to Exhibit B, evidence of Mr. Thompson and Ms. King's ongoing ethical violations. As Bob laid out the mountain of evidence we'd gathered, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew increasingly tense. Jennifer looked shell-shocked, while Lauren and Andrew grew more agitated by the minute. Finally, Bob turned to address Jennifer directly. Mrs. Davis, given the overwhelming evidence of your infidelity and the terms of your prenuptial agreement, do you wish to continue contesting this divorce? Jennifer glanced at Andrew, who shook his head almost imperceptibly. She slumped in her seat. No, she said quietly. I don't. The judge nodded, her expression stern. Very well. In light of the evidence presented, I'm granting the divorce on grounds of adultery. Mr. Davis will retain all assets as per the prenuptial agreement. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, she continued, I'm recommending a full investigation into the practices of Mr. Thompson and Ms. King. Bailiff, please ensure they do not leave the courthouse. This case will be referred to the criminal court for further action. As Lauren and Andrew were led away, protesting loudly, I turned to Bob in disbelief. We did it, I whispered. We actually did it. Bob grinned, clapping me on the shoulder. Told you we would. Come on, let's get out of here. I think we both could use a drink. As we left the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in months. The nightmare was finally over. Months passed, and slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my life. The house that had once felt tainted by Jennifer's betrayal became a sanctuary again. I threw myself into work, reconnected with old friends, and even started volunteering at a local animal shelter one sunny afternoon. As I was tending to the garden Jennifer had always neglected, a familiar car pulled into the driveway. My stomach clenched as Jennifer stepped out. Michael, she called, her voice hesitant. Can we talk? I straightened up, wiping my hands on my jeans. I don't think we have anything to say to each other, Jennifer. She took a step closer, her eyes pleading. Please, just hear me out. I made a terrible mistake. I've lost everything, my job, my friends. My family won't even speak to me. I know I don't deserve it, but is there any chance you could forgive me? I looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time in months, the arrogant, cruel woman from the hotel meeting was gone. In her place stood someone broken and desperate. For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. Then I remembered the pain she'd put me through, the lies, the betrayal. "No," I said firmly. "I can't forgive you, Jennifer. What you did, it's not something I can just get over. I think it's best if you leave." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she nodded. "I understand. I'm so sorry, Michael, for everything." As she drove away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was truly over now. Later that week, I met Bob for our now regular Friday night drinks. He greeted me with a grin and a copy of the local paper. "Check it out," he said, sliding it across the bar. The headline read, "Local Lawyers Disbarred in Ethics Scandal." Below were photos of Lauren and Andrew being led out of the courthouse in handcuffs. "Wow," I breathed. "It's really over." Bob nodded. "Yep, they're facing some serious charges. And get this, the hotel where they had you thrown out? They settled out of court. You've got a nice little payout coming your way." I shook my head, still amazed at how things had turned out. "I can't thank you enough, Bob, for everything." He waved me off. "No thanks necessary. Helping you, it felt good. Like I was finally making up for all the crap I put you through in school." I smiled. "Consider us even. More than even." As we clinked our glasses together, I marveled at the strange twists and turns life could take. My wife had betrayed me, my ex-girlfriend had tried to destroy me, and my childhood bully had become my savior and friend. "So," Bob said, interrupting my thoughts, "what's next for Michael Davis?" I considered the question. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't seem daunting. It felt full of possibility. "You know what?" I replied. "I think I'm going to travel, see the world a bit. Then maybe I'll write a book about all this." Bob laughed. "Now that's a story I'd read. To new beginnings?" I raised my glass. To new beginnings. And to friendship. As we sat there, sharing stories and laughter, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The ordeal had been painful, yes, but it had also taught me valuable lessons. About trust, about resilience, and about the unexpected places we can find allies. I was Michael Davis, survivor of betrayal and legal battles, and I was ready for whatever life threw at me next. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.